For this video here, it's gonna be about my introduction games to various franchises. So depending on how it goes, this is gonna be like a part 1, part 2 type thing, right? Or a part 3, right? And yeah, so to various franchises, right? And yeah, these are most of franchises like in terms of games with more than 4 games in it, right? So more than 4 games like in the franchise, or more than 3 games. And yeah, like and subscribe. Here we go. First one's gonna be the God of War Chains of Olympus. So Chains of Olympus was my introduction to the God of War series. So this is during the days. This was the one for the PSP, right? So the PSP one, right? Chains of Olympus is really, I believe it is the 4th in the series, right? By in terms of like what was a release. I believe you had God of War 1, God of War 2, then you had, I believe, what was it again? Ghost of Sparta, and then you had Chains of Olympus. And yeah, so Chains of Olympus, yeah, so just like all the other older God of War games, right? A hack and slash, adventure, action style game. And yeah, like I remember playing it. I love the comboing, right? Learning the block. You got the sun shield, and yeah. This one, chronologically, like in the story, takes place before God of War 1. So it takes place, I believe, before God of War 1. So yeah, you had to rescue, I believe, you had to restore the sun balance, right, in ancient Olympus. And yeah, so yeah, there is Helios, there is Morpheus, there is, what was his name again? Atlas. And yeah, so yeah, a God of War Chains of Olympus. And because it was on the PSP, right, you did get that fixed camera, and you only got the one analog stick. So some of the, controls were kind of weird. But there is the PS3. I remember there is the PS3 HD version. So there's the HD remastered version, right? So it is better. There's better, controls, graphics, and all that. Come over here, like, to the Metal Gear Solid franchise. So Metal Gear Solid, my intro to it was actually Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. So Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker is, basically, it takes place before Metal Gear Solid 5, right? So yeah, I believe, it's the Metal Gear timeline is kind of confusing, right? But it takes place like in the 70s, right? So that's 1970s in the Metal Gear Solid timeline. So yeah, Hideo and Kojima, the a creator like of the franchise, like he's very good at dialogue and a visual presentation, right? I remember this one had it was more so like a comic book style, so it's more of like a graphic novel style cutscenes, right? So yeah, playing it like in the PSP, this is a PSP game, so not a PSP game. Playing it like in the PSP was kind of confusing with some of the controls, and it is like a stealth game, right? It is like a stealth game, so in the movement, I kind of felt a little off, a little clunky. But yeah, once you got used to it, right, it was pretty easy. It got easy like over time. I'm not very good at stealth. I'm not good at stealth games, right? But this one though, like I remember it being very fun. It had a lot of systems in it as well, like lots of systems in it as well. Like you had mother base, you could develop items, right? And this was the I believe it is the introduction to a mother base like in the franchise. And over here, like to the Call of Duty franchise, my introduction to the series is actually Call of Duty Black Ops. So Call of Duty Black Ops, right? I played it originally like when I first got my PS3 back in 2010 or 11. And I played the demo. I played the demo of Call of Duty Black Ops. And it's a demo where you're in the snow. So you start out like you go in the SR-71 and you go like into space. Then it's like a recon over the snow map. And then you eventually go into the snow area. And yeah, it was a very epic action-packed mission. But this was my introduction to the franchise. Black Ops, I remember it probably, the most because it had zombies. And zombies, well, the zombies I'm familiar with, right? I didn't play a World at War until way later, but Black Ops Zombies was very addicting. You had Kino, you had 5, the map 5, Dead Ops Arcade, you had other ones too, eventually DLC maps, Ascension, Call of the Dead, Shangri-La, and the Moon. And yeah, so Call of Duty Zombies in Black Ops was my thing. And it was one of the funnest co-op modes. It was very fun, right? And saving up resources, gathering up points to get as many perks, right? I remember, oh no, never mind. There was a certain perk limit, so you can only carry 4 perks at once until you did extra things like Easter eggs and defeat bosses and all that. Call of Duty Black Ops, you know, the campaign, I remember the campaign, right, being, you know, based in the Cold War, so it's like a Cold War thing, and, you know, Russia and America, right, the Cuban Missile Crisis or whatever, and yeah, a main character, Mason, there's a lot of psychological tricks going on, like, in the story, and yeah, the multiplayer as well, super addicting, right, super addicting with all those things, kill streaks and the various modes, right, the various main modes, kill confirm, domination, capture the flag, and all them. Coming over here to Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet and Clank was probably my favorite franchise ever. Ratchet and Clank, my first Ratchet and Clank game was probably Ratchet and Clank Size Matters. So Ratchet and Clank Size Matters, it was my intro. So this is one like for the PSP, and it is a PSP bundle. That's the only reason how I got to play it. But growing up, I always wanted like a PSP. You know, always wanted like a PSP or like a PS3 or like a 360. But like I got the PSP first, and I got this game with it. So, you know, a very fun, like, you know, very fun animated style gameplay, right? Action gameplay, and, you know, cycling, unlocking newer weapons and all that. I like how they did it like in the franchise. Like sometimes, you know, in, you know, a Ratchet and Clank, they'll have separate gameplay, so they'll split up and they'll have separate gameplay elements. I really like the puzzles in this one. The puzzles, the Demolition Derby, there was the mini Clank puzzles, and yeah, this one, the story itself, I remember compared to other Ratchet and Clank stories, right? This one though, I was on the lower end, but you know, main thing for me, like when I'm playing these games, like is the gameplay. What is the gameplay like? And yeah, but my introduction, before this, I didn't know anything about Ratchet and Clank. I only heard about it by name. And yeah, but Size Matters, right? It is actually one of my favorite PSP games. It is definitely one of the best PSP games in terms of controls and graphics and visuals and all them. And yeah. So yeah, coming on here to the Need for Speed. The Need for Speed franchise, my introduction to it was probably Hot Pursuit 2. You might have seen this game like in a previous video. This is one of the earliest games that I played. Hot Pursuit, so basically with just like with the newest one I talk about a lot. Play as cop, play as racer. Each side will have its own progression system and it differs over time. Hot Pursuit 2, so I remember playing it like I was probably 6, 7, 8 years old playing it, and I always wanted to get the original, you know, get the better tiers of cars. So you start off like with basic tiers of cars, and you eventually unlock the rare high-end class of cars, McLarens, the higher-end Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and all them. But yeah, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2, like I remember the sceneries, the soundtrack, right? All I gave the game like a very unique sense of, you know, a personality. But I really like that though. Play as cop, play as racer, and it differs. Like I remember this one didn't have a lot of cop cars or cop vehicles. There's probably only 5 or 6. This is a more slower paced Need for Speed. It's not a faster paced Need for Speed, but you know, later on in the franchise, the series got more faster paced over time, and it added more content and more vehicles overall. And yeah, so yeah, that's my introduction to the Need for Speed franchise. So yeah, introduction to various franchises, and I might do another one of this video. So like and subscribe. Thank you.